FLICKR has been killing it since he first stepped onto the scene. This guy has done it all.
The greatest AD carry player to ever.
I think it's safe to say Uzi and FLICKR are the two most famous players to ever play League of Legends.
我觉得算是一种缘分吧，因为每一次世界赛，不管是什么样的情况下，我们好像都会和 SKT 遇到，但是结果上都不是特别好。在 S3的时候，就是知道他们特别的强，然后没有想到中单是更强的一个选手。
And FLICKR just throw it once. There it is again. Oh, this could be a 20-minute game for SK Telecom.
They never lose hope.
SK Telecom advance to the semi-final at Worlds. It's the Gallios trying to get the damage across. Shields coming in. It's Uzi to get it second. The legend of SK Telecom will not die today. Legends never die.
First one goes to FLICKR. Legendary.
God is back.
感觉就是他一上这种世界，总觉得他的舞台总是就是打得非常的亮眼。提到 FLICKR 的时候，我总觉得他能够带领隊伍走到最后，而且很有可能会获得最后那个冠军。
우지 선수가 대단한 점 지금까지 오랫동안 좋은 기량을 유지했다는 게 대단한 것 같아요.
Oh, the rocket band's gonna land this time. And Uzi picks up the kill.
算是比较幸运的，因为每次能够跟 FLICKR 对局，肯定会有更多人能够记住我们。我觉得我和 FLICKR 就是想让更多人知道，就是每一个职业选手不只是只能打那么短短的几年时间，我觉得就是可以坚持更久，然后也可以打得非常的好，就是可以保持更高的竞技水平。 如果我们可以击败 SKT 的话，我相信我们队伍会走得更远，因为在我看来 SKT 也是一个非常强的队伍。在我遇上 FLICKR 的时候，我特别想在比赛中去击败他。
Thank you and welcome back to Worlds 2019. I'm Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns, and I am excited to keep the groups rolling here alongside Mr. Andrew Vedius Day and Joshua Jat Leesman. Gentlemen, it is SKT and RNG first up on the menu.
You couldn't ask for a better game to start the day. The hype video, the history between Uzi and FLICKR, the fact that they are both back and both looking poised to this Worlds.
And both teams currently sitting at 1-0 in the group. The winner will claim first spot so far, and it's only setting up for a very exciting game. We saw some great stuff from both teams yesterday.
Especially when you consider the nature of this group. Many fans, when they saw the group draw, seeing SKT, RNG, and Fnatic in the same group, meaning one of those three does not get to advance, that means every single one of these wins you pull out means so much more, and this should be an absolutely epic game.
Yeah, and let's think about what these guys did yesterday, because we saw SKT actually lead off the World Championship against Fnatic. They brought out Kayle bot lane, a new pick that no one had played in that position for the entirety of the World Championship. So they even said after that game that they learned from their failures at MSI in terms of bringing new stuff out. I wonder what else they actually have, because SKT isn't the team that you traditionally think of for bringing out new or innovative strategies, yet that is what they did yesterday.
Yeah, when we look at RNG, I feel like we saw what we always see from RNG. We saw a strong bot side of the map, we saw a safe top laner, and we see them typically try to play through the bottom lane. And while we did see a couple of ganks directed towards Langjing, and who honestly had a great game, a lot of the focus in the early game was put much more towards the bot side of the map. And I don't think you're going to get away with a Kayle bot lane against the likes of Uzi and Ming.
Well, we know that the rest of RNG would definitely not just allow that to sort of sit and happen. They love to play around this bottom side of the map. They specifically love to invest as many resources as possible into Uzi. We've seen this guy be the carry of the day before. And whether or not that happens here today, well, that's up to the guys on stage.
And what I'm really interested in is how these two teams clash with regards to their styles, because both are very controlled. A lot of team fighting happens domestically for both of these teams, and they love to contest for these objectives. So I wonder if in the draft we will see a very team fight focused style of play from both teams, or if we will see some shakeups in the draft.
All right, we're getting into Champion Select now for the first time of the day. It's Morgana and Ryze banned away by the side of SKT. RNG getting rid of the Akali and the Pantheon here to kick things off.
Yeah, Kayle immediately getting taken away, I think, is a signal that that pick is going to have a lot of power throughout the rest of the World Championship. That was one of the main takeaways a lot of the analysts had after yesterday's game, but the first pick will now kind of dictate what direction we see from SKT, and if it is going to be Renekton, that's something they have played in both the top and the mid lane.
Looks like they want to consider taking it away from Langx. It is something that RNG run a lot, especially during the playoffs, because it is a safe side top laner that you can also look to play through. So now that Khan has that favorable matchup, RNG could look to try and get a counter, but they're going to have to look to go for something safe side. Gangplank is up and available, which we know is highly contentious at this tournament.
RNG are hovering over this Zoe here at the start. Don't want to lock in the solo lane just yet. Instead, going to pick up Uzi's AD carry with the Xayah and putting Karsa on that early powerhouse in the Lee Sin.
I mean, I feel like we're going to see throughout this World Championship, if Xayah's not banned, that's what Uzi's going to play. It was basically perma-banned in the LPL finals between RNG and FPX because, in part, Uzi is so devastating on it. Not only can he be lane dominant with it, but if you do try and gank him, it's very good at staying alive. So it allows Uzi to put forth a lot of pressure without a huge risk of dying.
SKT now in a position where they have to decide, do they want to try and counter the Rakan early by picking something that could be good into it, or do they want to try and take it away from the bot lane of RNG? Because depending on their pick will depend on how RNG answer with the support.
Switching back and forth between a couple of different things here.
Yes.
Good this beat now.
Oh,
Switching
they
back to
teased
the
us,
Thresh.
Jack.
They teased us with the support swing.
And we will see the Thresh locked in there saying, okay, RNG, if you want to go for the Xayah Rakan, you can pick that, but Thresh is going to be the response here from the side of SKT.
Yeah, I think it leaves it quite open-ended for SKT as well. I think Thresh can be relatively strong into a lot of matchups. Morgana is one of the hardest counters to it, and with that taken off the board, I think that you could look at something like an Alistar or even a Blitzcrank, which they did go for yesterday, and they're going to go for it once again. The crowd is excited to see it. I enjoyed watching Ming generate a lot of pressure with that hook, especially in the mid game, but we'll see RNG how well they can do in the 2 versus 2.
The big buffs on the 919 patch extending the range of the Blitzcrank hook, and the question will be how familiar are SKT with all of the new routes that Ming can go through to try and get those extra hooks in.
Notice that the Gangplank has been banned away from RNG. This suggests that RNG expect the Renekton to be a flex in the mid lane as well. We know that FLICKR can play it, and they want to deny that safe blind pick option. It also suggests that RNG have an answer to it and will likely save their last pick, which means that I expect Xiaohu to go for one of his safe mages. We may end up seeing something like the Karma for him in the mid lane.
Well, solo lanes are the name of the game here for the bans in this second phase. LeBlanc, the ban coming out from SKT, keeping that one out of the hands of Xiaohu. They don't want him on that champion that's able to get around, assassinate everybody so easily. Kalista banned away by the side of RNG. Kalista Thresh, a notorious bottom lane for keeping everybody so safe all the time with lanterns into Kalista ultimates.
And also something Teddy is extremely good at and does like to pull out in clutch situations. So that is a pretty big respect ban. And it's also kind of almost just daring him to pick Xayah. Because you're thinking about phase 2 ADC bans when one team locks in Xayah, you're almost expecting it to be a Xayah on top of the fact that SKT already has an AD solo laner. So it's also the pick that gives them the most flexibility. But you can see RNG is saying, please play it. We'll lane into it and beat it.
RNG also going to go ahead, lock themselves in that Mordekaiser. Since the rework, a very powerful 1v1 champion, able to isolate opponents in team fights, whether that means he's taking down a value target himself or taking out a diver to protect the AD carry. A lot of work could be done here for the side of RNG with this pick.
I do quite like the Mordekaiser, and I think that once he gets a couple items under his belt, he'll be able to match the Renekton quite well.
Baby.
We're going to see the FLICKR Twisted Fate. You would imagine this is likely going to be the AD iteration that we've been seeing a lot of around the world, and it's very good at attacking these side lanes, so it does suggest that SKT right now have their eyes set on attacking the top lane once that level 6 comes through. And RNG going to run out with Xiaohu's Zoe, a staple pick for this man in the mid lane. He had a fantastic regular season. A lot of credit went to him to help RNG secure such a strong spot at the end of the split. And now we get to see him return onto the international stage with this very special champion.
Sometimes you can forget how frustrating it is to play against a good Zoe, but just watch yourself a Xiaohu game or two and you will instantly be reminded his ability to use this champion effectively, place the bubbles exactly where they need to be, manipulating the terrain as much as possible to get the maximum range. This guy is scary on this pick.
Yeah, and also looking at these drafts, no flex picks to throw big curveballs coming in there. There's not too much that's extremely surprising about this draft. The one thing that I want to point out, though, is the reliability that SKT will have with some of their engages in Chain CC versus more unreliability from the side of RNG, very much needing to land either a hook or a bubble to get a good team fight.
I'm looking at this SKT comp and I'm thinking that they're primarily going to be looking for skirmishes and picks on a side lane, which typically goes against what we often see from SKT, which is a lot of team fighting and focus around objectives. So I'm curious as to how they approach this game. I imagine we're going to see a bit of a slow start with focus up towards the top side.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Let's do it on to Summoner's Rift to kick off day 2 of Worlds 2019 main stage groups. SKT and RNG, both fresh off a win on day number 1, looking to take sole possession of first in that group.
Captain Flowers, how many Blitzcranks have you played with in your solo queue days?
A few.
And you would imagine that if there's a Blitzcrank in the game, a level 1 strat is going to be coming out. We're seeing RNG group up towards the top side of the map right now. They may be setting up for a delayed invade. You can see that they did set up this ward towards the entrance on the bot side of the jungle just here to get a bit of information as to what's going on at the beginning of the game. But it looks like they're not going to do anything too aggressive and not be overzealous with the blitz.
Yeah, and I can also see SKT very much just setting up to neutralize that early start. No one even waiting in the jungle, waiting in some of the normal brushes you would before trying to ward off invades. They really just sprinted out, landed wards, and then actually Clid and Khan went back to base to make sure nothing bad would happen.
And as we're waiting for everything to really kick off here, watching the minions march their way down the lanes, one thing I want to point out immediately in the matchup between the two squads here, only one teleport on the side of RNG this game with Langx. On the side of SKT, FLICKR, Petty, and Khan all have that available. So we'll need to keep track of that as this game moves forward to see the kind of map movements that affords SKT.
Yeah, big thing about Combat Summoner in the bottom lane. So Uzi wants to try and play more lane dominant, and Teddy and Effort are going to try to mostly just neutralize the lane. But then I think Xiaohu kind of does need to take cleanse against Twisted Fate. Otherwise, the ganks are so reliable. It's almost a tax when you're playing up against TF.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And whenever you speak to Frost, what she always loves to bring to attention is the fact that over in the LPL, they love their combat summoners in the bot lane. They love to try and win those 2 versus 2, have lane dominance and build advantages in the laning phase rather than going for those safe resets. And you can just see a slight difference in styles and approach to how these different regions often approach the bottom.
Junglers are starting off on different sides right now. You can see the bottom to top side clear coming out for Clid there, making his way, well, top to bottom, I should say. Started off the blue, working his way towards that bottom side now. As you can see, a full clear coming out as well for Karsa. He'll be working his way towards the bottom half of the map as Langx is taking control of this lane early on. Mordekaiser, a very difficult champion to run into as another melee pick 1v1.
Yeah, and really, if we're thinking about all SKT lanes, they will go forward if Clid is there. Clid is the guy who's going to run this early game for SKT because for the most part, SKT has been playing extremely controlled and effective League of Legends ever since their run through the LCK playoffs. So I wouldn't expect them to be going for 2v2 kills, but that doesn't mean that Clid can't get some early game action going.
Right, this was a team that largely relied on not falling too far behind throughout the LCK regular season. Then during playoffs, they really shaped up a lot of those weaknesses in the early game. And for a lot of these early game catalyzing plays, it's Clid who's the man making the difference. He's the one who shows up and facilitates everybody else being able to play the way they want to. But now Karsa's moving into this bottom side just to drop a ward here into the Tribe Rush.
So what I quite like about Clid's pathing is that you expect Karsa to be playing around bot early. The reason why you expect that is because we already talked about the combat summoners earlier. Uzi and Ming will be pushing, which means they're primed and set up to get ganked. So both junglers are pathing towards bot because Karsa wants to cover, whereas Clid either wants to counter any potential early ganks, but also wants to punish Uzi and Ming, who may be looking to try and overextend.
And this is one of the things that I'm talking about. 27% jungle proximity is actually extremely low when you talk about averages, but he still has the best kills plus assists at 15 minutes. So I think there are certain times where jungle proximity is, I think, actually misused as a stat of saying, oh, this guy's just a farm jungler. Oh, this guy doesn't gank. Sometimes it means that he doesn't have failing ganks, because that was what Clid did in day one. He farmed extremely efficiently, but when he did gank, that 27% of the time he was within 2,000 units of an ally, it was effective.
Clid's made his way into the top side of the map now, clearing out this control ward placed down by RNG in that top side Tribe Rush. That one out of the way, it just means that RNG will have to be that much more respectful of where Clid may be.
So the reason why Clid is now clearing up towards the top side is because look at FLICKR's level. He's just hit level 5, 6 will be coming soon. He's based at just the right time because he's coming close to that level 6 mark and he's going to force Xiaohu to back off. This gives him an opportunity to look for a roam because he can push out this wave and Khan is resetting. I see a lot of setup coming out from SKT right now to suggest that they're going to be looking for that level 6 play with the Twisted Fate.
Bottom side, nice hook from Effort there onto Uzi. Play back on Ming as well, putting some damage onto the RNG bottom laners, but a nice hook coming out. Teddy's going to be taken low, gets himself away thanks to the Lantern, and Ignite is expended by Ming.
And that was actually an interesting mistake by Teddy, because oftentimes when the Ezreal is picked into a Blitzcrank lane, it's so that you can cast your E as the hook connects with you and essentially invalidate it from landing. But that's what Teddy didn't do right there. I believe he's kind of being a little bit greedy in lane. His first back is likely looking to be a Tier and a Sheen, but with the teleport and losing 1 and about 3/4 plate, he is getting pushed in and will probably take his recall after this next wave.
Xiaohu was first one to hit level 6 there. FLICKR hit it just a couple creeps later, and that means that the Twisted Fate ultimate is now online. We'll see if SKT are able to coordinate a play with this one here early on. Effort doing a good job of wasting as much of Karsa's time as possible, letting him get just ever so close to that recall window and then interrupting it there with the death sentence.
So we can see the Sheen has come through now for Teddy. We'll give him a little bit more trading power in lane and potential setup. Again, just because we expect Fake to play towards top doesn't mean that he can't look to gank bot. I like this roam from Ming, level 4. He was able to base just before Uzi, which means he has plenty of time to roam through the mid lane, maybe look for a pick, but his primary goal is to get this vision down. Give it a little bit more information as to where Clid is on the map, but also to set up for RNG to potentially play through bot lane.
One thing I'll also be looking at on this map is Karsa. So many times you think about the Twisted Fate, and the natural solo queue response of playing against Twisted Fate is, well, you have to go to him, because he's going to try to go to all the other lanes instead. Will RNG be able to make a play onto FLICKR, this player who has almost built a reputation out of just his ability to absorb pressure? Besides everything else, we've seen how hard teams try to shut him down and how difficult that can be.
Look at the junglers right now. Clid sneaking up through the lane on the bot side of the map. It looks like SKT are not aware that this Drake is going on, but they are trying to get a bit of vision down. This should indicate that there should be a jungler on the bot side of the map, given that his red has not been cleared, and now they'll know as the Drake does go down.
Yeah, good capitalization by Karsa right there, because his bottom lane had push, his mid lane had push, and they had multiple control wards in the river. So since he was so missing, SKT would actually feel a little bit scared about going into blindly check, and really just a good read by Karsa to get the first Infernal Drake.
Clid still missing that ultimate there on the Gragas as well, meaning if they were to try to force something in the bottom lane, They wouldn't have that tool available to use. Karsa also hanging out down here, just waiting to see if SKT are going to try to make some kind of a move. Twisted Fate ulti coming out now. RNG trying to get themselves away. They could be in some trouble, but now it's going to be FLICKR. He's first blooded, and a hook has found a second. Clid's going to be going down here, but it looks like the TP into the back from Khan may be the saving grace. Langx has extended himself far into the SKT lines, and he too will now retreat. Paddle Star nearly finding the kill onto Teddy. Khan getting himself away. Uzi goes into the Thunderstorm, keeping himself alive. Not at the end of the day. It's a 1-for-1. Xiaohu going to be grabbing the kill onto Effort. And
this isn't done yet.
Is not yet over. Explosive cast comes down. Khan's kept alive. Finally falling to Xiaohu, but yet another 1-for-1.
It is rare that you see SKT force in such a fashion. FLICKR just putting his face in front of all of RNG, instantly dies when he goes in there, but that sets the wheels in motion for a chaotic fight.
Beautifully played initially by SKT because they know they have the numbers advantage. What they're not expecting is Karsa to just be lying in wait. RNG like to protect and play around their bot lane, and the Langx teleport was immediate. At this point, you're thinking, okay, pretty good start to the fight for RNG, but then things start to turn.
And the surprising thing to me, Vedius, was that the TF ultimate reveals everyone, so he knew that Karsa was there, and then as this continues, watch Uzi, knows he's going to take a turret shot, and the hook finds him at the very end of the
And then you
Xayah
think
ultimate.
that the fight is over, Jet. You think that this is where things are done, but then a beautiful casket from Clid. At this point, again, you're thinking, okay, the team fight is over, but it's Karsa that's drawing the tower aggro that gives enough time for Langx and Xiaohu to actually dish the damage and make it a 3-for-3 at the end of the day.
And after chaotic fights like that, where it is 3-for-3, it's very important to take stock about where the gold went. So 2 kills actually went to Khan in the top lane, and 2 kills went to Xiaohu Zoe in the mid lane. So the faster he hits his item spikes, the more threatening his Fog of War fights become, and you can see he's going to look to try and punish FLICKR with his gold advantage.
Bottom side, Ming goes to get another hook. And that one's going to be a gray screen for Effort. Good aim from Ming.
And so while the kills did go onto Xiaohu in the mid lane, all of the summoner spells were gone for the bot lane of SKT, which means the moment Ming was able to land a hook, they were able to find a kill. RNG now lead the kill score. Xiaohu gets a bit more poke down onto Fake.
FLICKR sitting at 1/3 HP here in this mid lane. Xiaohu and Karsa on the prowl through the enemy jungle. Xiaohu backing back up towards the river, but Karsa not afraid to move forward here, sitting down the control ward, taking that control over this area with the vision, providing even more darkness for SKT to have to double check as they rotate.
And you can see RNG heavily trying to play around this bottom side as Mordekaiser ends up using his ult in the top lane. That's mostly trading. It's all about using that mid lane gold lead to punish and break this bottom lane. Here comes RNG.
Redemption going to be used there just to try to keep SKT even further back. Sleepy Trouble Bubble not going to find the mark, just falls barely short. Minion wave cleared out in time to not allow RNG to take the turret just yet.
And now, instead of actually sending 4 people bottom lane to match and just continuing battle that they're lose, FLICKR ends up using his teleport mid and trying to push forward as aggressively as possible to say, okay, you take bot, we'll take mid. And then, as the Lee Sin matches, they go in bot.
Beautiful pickoff.
And there we go. Shut down onto Uzi as the plays are going to continue. Ming now in some trouble. They can't find even a single kill. And they lose to SKT make the play.
I actually love what FLICKR and SKT did there. It looked like the bottom lane was going to be hopeless. It looked like they had been poked down to 1 plate. But once FLICKR used his teleport mid, RNG felt compelled to match, and that's the moment that SKT strike bottom lane. So there is an ebb and flow to these lanes in the way you can apply pressure, and SKT found the exact window where bot was vulnerable.
And I love that you say that, Jap, because it is these exact windows that SKT showed against yesterday versus Fnatic that they're able to find these plays. And as you say, Xiaohu's going back to base. Karsa is in the mid lane. This allows Twisted Fate to be able to teleport to the bot lane with his ultimate. Ming and Uzi were slightly overextended, and that was all that SKT needed. They lead in the gold right now because of the Twisted Fate passive and Kleptomancy, but this game is still very even.
Second Infernal is so big here.
Xiaohu is going to get himself grabbed. Clin's going to be keeping him safe, but Effort is immediately deleted yet again. Ming has got his number this game.
You're seeing the combo of the Zoe and the Blitzcrank. If either one of their skill shots land, it's going to be a guaranteed pick for RNG. They find the shutdown onto Effort, and now Uzi's eyes are set on this bot lane tower. This should be the first structure of the game going in favor of RNG.
And it's still in time to get the extra plate money with it too. And more importantly, this will be solo gold on to Uzi, the man that RNG just loves to play around. More money in his pocket just means more and more chances for them to walk out with a win here as Karsa's on to that second Infernal.
Second Infernal is so important for RNG as well. You can see that their comp does scale quite well with the Xayah. Oh, Xiaohu!
Got him.
Who nearly got FLICKR, who flashes over the wall.
I think he's got him. Oh,
he's got him now.
The stopwatch.
Oh!
He walks away from the trouble bubble, and FLICKR is kept alive, and Xiaohu is baited into a death mid lane.
Oh, oh no. Xiaohu is just so unlucky when it comes to finding these 1v1 kills. Yesterday against Demonte, today against FLICKR. Oh, it was so close, but a great flash from FLICKR. We all thought, like, listen, why are you wasting your flash? He should have died, but he had the stopwatch. He survives, and then they come in for the punish.
To think ahead on that play, obviously, you could make the argument that Xiaohu outplayed him to make him burn his flash and his stopwatch. Yes. But almost any other player, you'll flame them for burning flash or you'll flame them for burning stopwatch in what looked like a sure death situation. But then I'll have to go back and check whether or not Xiaohu misfired his bubble or whether or not he just couldn't find the range over the wall, because that is actually one of the most miraculous escapes I've seen.
Very impressively done by FLICKR. Tragedy striking for RNG. Uzi gonna steal away that chicken camp there to at least grab a little bit more money for himself. Currently leading this game in terms of farm. Let's take another look at the mid lane play.
So great play by Xiaohu there to get the ignite onto FLICKR. He flashes over the wall. You'd think that Xiaohu's Q would have been off cooldown, but he just throws the bubble. Just short.
Just a little too short, yeah. And now he's
dead.
Up a creek without a paddle, I believe is the expression.
That would be the expression, sir.
And then he got shot by a tank. In any case, SKT very even right now with RNG. What you have to remember is the double Infernal does give a lot of extra damage over to the side of RNG. Yeah. And that's going to set us up nicely for a lot more future engages between these two teams.
Yeah, I'd actually make the argument that RNG is up by a decent amount because of the double Infernal and a third Infernal spawning in 3 minutes, and the fact that SKT just doesn't have bot control and they are unable to wrestle it away from RNG, who's still sitting with control wards down in that jungle. So RNG, with this triple Infernal as the first 3 Drakes, has got to be loving it. A team that loves to control bot side for the first 20 minutes, if they can get triple Infernal off of that, they're golden.
And notice how both teams are trading sides of the map right now. In the bot half, you've got all this vision being invested in favor of RNG. Meanwhile, on the top side, it's all going in favor of SKT. And while we did see that last replay, ooh, it looks like we're getting a fight.
Ming's going in underneath the turret. He'll be soaking the aggro. FLICKR's got no stopwatch anymore, and that's another kill for RNG.
And RNG made the play before I could set it up. Their eyes were set towards this bot tower. SKT do have the Rift Herald, so they can try and answer by utilizing it mid, but RNG are going to be able to get this tower, reset, and get back out onto the map.
Yeah, and RNG is doing proactive plays on their side of the map, whereas SKT, it doesn't quite look like they are. If they get this play, though, it's big.
Oh!
Wow. Okay.
There we go.
Sure. That took the words right out of my mouth. You know what SKT needs to do? Something that's not bot lane. How about one-shotting Uzi?
Big misplay there from Uzi as well, though. He did have the heal. His flash only just came up, but normally instant reaction speeds are what you come to expect from Uzi. He didn't use his ultimate in time, and he ends up getting punished. SKT still holding on to the Rift Herald means they can actually path up towards top and use that, and we'll get a look back at this pick onto Uzi. Was not expecting that engage from Clid. Ends up immediately getting blocked.
Yeah, oftentimes, Gragas, he was in range to body slam, right? He could have just forced the ultimate from Uzi with a normal body slam, but he basically instantly body slam flash from short range, which did not give Uzi time to react. And now, Rift Herald gets used 1 minute before the Drake. This is where SKT now needs to try and wrestle the control of the bottom side back, because anything is possible. But I feel like if RNG gets triple Infernal here, they probably win the game. The first Infernal is more valuable than the second and third in terms of how many stats it gives you. So SKT really need to get this one to be able to match RNG in the mid and late game.
SKT are making it a priority to get control over this bottom side river right now. You can see plenty of wards being set down, control wards, vision wards, everything but the kitchen sink being thrown into this river to try to keep RNG away and give them the jump on any fight that might pop up.
And I'm looking at Effort and Ming, because every time Effort has gone for a pick, Ming has killed him. The lockdown on that Q has mean after Dicey goes for pick, he loses half his health.
It's not even hard to kill him at this point. 20%, 30% HP remaining is not where you want to be up against a Zoe and a Lee Sin and all these champions that it's so easy to just burst you down. Teddy will be defending here in the mid lane. RNG does have control over mid right now. They'll shove that wave up and chase into the river after SKT.
Now, the big point of contention is this Infernal, but SKT have control over the bot side. RNG don't care. They forced through mid to gain priority, and now they're the ones starting it off. Twisted Fate is on his way. Will have the ultimate. Pops it. Here we go.
For the steal.
Faulty is out. He's stolen by SKT, but now where is the fight going to go? Efforts there on the front line. Karsa able to find the kick onto Khan into the rest of RNG. Faker's going to be in there on the backside as well. Uzi finding the damage in onto Khan. RNG still going to be kept alive, but the health bars are critically low. Faker's after Uzi, but he won't be able to find him just yet. Faker's stumbling away, but he's the only man left standing. Karsa and Langx are after him. Sonic Wave will not find the mark, but the pursuit continues. Karsa is stopped in his tracks, but Langx continues the chase. The claw will not find the mark, and Faker hands him a card and walks away.
RNG will not find the ace, but they still found 4 kills onto SKT. They will not secure the third Infernal, but what a close fight. Remember, the with SKT's comp, it is a lot harder to commit to these team fights because Teddy is not online as a champion just yet. They're very split. Notice Teddy on the backline, not dealing any damage right now, trying to land a couple of pokes with his Q, but Uzi's just tearing through the front line.
And then Faker looks to try and clean up this fight, but Uzi going untargetable buys just enough time for them to dump a bunch of damage onto Faker. Gonna watch Faker once again with this great finish and escape.
But also notice how Faker flashed to avoid the bubble from Xiaohu, which then landed onto his AD carry, shutting him out of the fight. So Faker ends up being the only one to survive, sidestepping everything. The cool, calm demeanor of Faker allows him to walk away nonchalantly. No problems here.
Honestly, like, the rest of this, he's really just running away at max speed, but something about Faker makes us be like, wow! Run in the straight line! But he did so many dodges before that. And then you can also see, like, Langx, Karsa, they thought they'd have a kill. They'd know, like, they have enough experience to know that. One thing I really have to point out about that fight, though, is how huge it is that Clid stole it away and how it all could have been avoided. Mordekaiser, if he moves up closer to Gragas, can just throw him into the Death Realm, and then Drake is unsmiteable. So the fact that that didn't happen, I think, keeps SKT in this game.
I think it's also important to recognize that SKT, even though their comp is probably not best designed for fighting in a situation like that, especially given that they haven't hit their big power windows, given that Teddy has not finished his Trinity Force yet, they needed to because of how important that Infernal was. And by securing it, the loss ultimately still ends up paying off for SKT.
Well, I have an interesting stat for you guys now that we've just crested the 20-minute mark, and after that last fight, Uzi is now up to 3 kills. In the LPL, when Uzi has 3 or more kills, out of 31 games, they won 27 of those.
Oh.
That's 87% of a win rate. When he has less than 3, they only win 33% of the games. Uzi is at that critical point of 3 kills where that's enough money, and Mr. Uzi's coming online.
But did you know, Captain Flowers, that of the 15 games that RNG and SKT have played against each other, RNG have only won 5. So which will be the greatest? 33%. So which stat will be greater on the day? RNG.
Well, SKT wants to fight this.
Here we go.
RNG taking a play, but that's a nice cast. Uzi's going to be in some trouble. He's the first one dead. Clid's trying to get himself away. Langx is in the middle of everybody in this fight. He's going to be taken very low. Khan barely going to be kept alive, getting himself out now as well. And SKT have got the fight.
What does it say about games where Uzi dies 5 times?
Games where Uzi takes a big swig out of a Gragas barrel to start the fight. I don't know about that one.
SKT's going for Baron. Karsa is alive, though, for a potential steal.
So much praise needs to be given to Clid for that play. Beautiful cast, set up the fight fantastically for SKT. The Baron has been started. Karsa trying to steal it. He's not going to be able to.
Not today, Teddy jumping in there. A couple quick shots. Wham, bam, he's out of there. And Baron goes to SKT.
This game has been on such a knife's edge. The third Infernal, how close those team fights are, the two great escapes of FLICKR, and then this cask breaks the game wide open, knocking both carries directly into SKT's turret, ending the fight before it began.
And it arrived just as the Twisted Fate did as well. Beautifully played from the side of SKT, and we said it at the beginning of the game. SKT is known for their team fighting. That is often how they win games, and that is a perfect example. Their ability to set up and execute on so many of these fights is what makes them one of the best teams in the world.
And look at the graph on your screen right now. The man that is so heavily valued by RNG, so heavily invested into, barely 3 digits of damage in the last team fight because of how quickly he was killed at the beginning.
Yeah, but also have to point out it's not over till it's over, because Uzi still has the most gold in the game. Of all players coming into the World Championship, Uzi got the most of his team's CS between 15 and 30 minutes, 36% of his team CS, so actually more than a third, even though there's 5 people on the map trying to get gold. So even with him dying in these fights, he's still packing a bigger punch than anyone else. FLICKR has the most gold. Uzi has the second most gold in the game. Have to correct myself right there, but it's still possible if Uzi hits Infinity Edge for RNG to come back.
What's important to note as well is that SKT are not the most aggressive when it comes to securing their first Baron. They like to play it safe. They like to take their time. They're not a team that tries very hard to snowball their leads. And you can see that they're pressuring all 3 lanes right now. They're maintaining vision control around the bot side of the map. They're steady, calm, and calculated, which means that they're likely not going to end the game off this push, and it will give RNG another opportunity to find a fight, get to a couple more items, and potentially come back.
Same time, SKT is a team that is very comfortable. As you said, Vedius, they don't need to snowball. They have the #1 rank in the LCK for spending games in a close state, which means no more than a 2% lead or deficit either way. So this team knows how to play in these close situations. This likely will get them very far and away from that as they're using this Baron all across the map, pushing into each of these lanes.
Oh, look out.
Effort's in some trouble yet again, though. Remember, I said Ming had his number earlier. Well, punch that ticket yet again. RNG got themselves a pick.
This has been a very rough game for effort outside of one great hook in the bottom lane. Here comes SKT, though.
SKT making the moves, making the plays, and FLICKR is on a killing spree. RNG looking to take him down, though, and that's Karsa getting the shutdown. Langx going in on Clid. He's put him into the death realm. The stasis will buy a moment's time, but what else are you going to do? Clid's drowsy, and he's taking a long nap now. Khan's trying to make some sort of a move happen, but he's turned into a pair of alligator boots. Shut down over to Uzi, and RNG strike back.
That is a negative Baron power play as RNG answer back. A single pick onto effort ends up snowballing into an ace. RNG do not give up without a fight, and this fight has brought them back into the game.
And RNG probably could have kept pushing, but they want to just hold their advantage where it lies. What a series of picks that was, now that we finally calmed back down. And it was all before Uzi even got his Infinity Edge. Watching this again, we mentioned how it's been a rough game for effort. He's going for deep vision, and that's exactly where Ming pounces. Doesn't even try to get the hook, just flash punch right in the middle of the face. And then SKT's confidence actually tells them that they can continue this, and that's ultimately where it goes wrong.
And I feel that this play that FLICKR just made is what we wanted to see from SKT a little bit earlier on, utilizing the TF ultimate to create pressure one side and then threaten a tower elsewhere. But because he came in late to look for a pick, he ends up just putting himself in a situation where he loses his life. So all that gold on the side of SKT disappears, allowing them to have a numbers advantage, chase down the rest of SKT, and convert a number of towers back into their favor.
Oh, man. Such good stopwatch usage by Karsa right there, baiting Khan into that fight, not allowing him to finish off that kill.
And now, Uzi does have the most gold in the game. That fight, very favorable for him, and you can see that he's at 3.8k damage in that last fight. Uzi has definitely come online.
And while Uzi's hitting that 3.8k, keep your eyes on Langx as well. He hit 3.7, just barely under the marker Uzi set, and in the previous team fight, he was also the damage leader when
RNG was in such a bad spot. He's making sure he's just in the middle of all this chaos with that scrap shield, doing so much to everybody on the side of SKT. This guy is doing his job so well.
Yeah, I think he is. And so far, I think Langx has had a good World Championship. And he's going to be integral because the Baron is spawning in 45 seconds. Gentlemen, I think we know that a fight is going to happen there, and I feel that that fight could very well determine the outcome of this game. So we got to set expectations, given that items are coming through for both sides. And I just feel that at this point in the game, in a full-on 5v5, RNG should be stronger, so SKT need to look for picks like this.
SKT are trying to make the move onto Langx, but however, the Death Realm seems to have been summoned. Will it be able to survive? No, he will not. Khan's grabbing the kill. Karsa goes in now. Xiaohu's also there. Clid's coming out, keeping the mid laner alive. Cass goes through. Xiaohu not going to be knocked at the right angle. Uzi having to pop the QSS as well. SKT have found one, but what will they do from here?
And this is SKT kind of, again, applying pressure on a spot in the map that is not where you expect it to be applied. So everyone is thinking about the Baron, but SKT is able to kill Mordekaiser and actually kind of abandon the Baron setup now since there's a long death timer. Not only will they be able to clean up the Mountain Drake on the way through, they should also be able to get rid of some of those control wards and have a 5-man advantage. So an extremely good decision that pays off for SKT.
But I also think this is exactly what they needed to do, because we were just talking about how Baron was going to be the next big point of contention, and they did not want to find that 5v5, so looking for a pick, securing the mountain, but it sets them up for that objective, and I think they need to find another pick before they can really start this Baron off.
RNG are the ones with control over that top side river right now, trying to clear out some of these wards just now placed down by SKT. Control wards and sweepers in the right place to remove all of those right now. RNG does still have that tier 2 in the top side, but with no other nearby turrets to run to, you got to make sure you're doing your due diligence, establishing these vision lines. Let's take another look at what happened with the play bottom side.
Yeah, so Langx wanted to be able to have his ultimate up once he got into the turret, but he takes so much damage before he ends up ulting Khan that he's just not able to stall this out for long enough. And then RNG, since they were the ones setting up mid-priority, were a little bit late to the play.
Exactly, Jack. You were talking about it before the replay and how RNG, their focus was on the Baron. They expected the fight to be taking place there, but SKT had a very small window where they could look for this pick and could not be punished for it. And this is what we have to continue to praise SKT for. They continuously find these incredibly small windows, and every time they convert it into something big.
And with this Baron on the table, with us now being past the 30-minute mark in the game, what I brought up at the beginning, the status of having 3 teleports compared to only 1 goes that much further for the side of SKT. It means they can switch out who's on the split push, who's far away, and still have control over this Baron area. You can see those wards being placed back down yet again now as RNG want to step up and continue to contest.
And if RNG wants to break out of this cycle, they need Ming or Karsa to find a pick. They have to be able to track FLICKR on the map. Otherwise, Langx is going to die in that side lane, especially when his teleport is still down, and then SKT can easily just teleport back to the Baron pit after they spend 2
Look at the
people there.
flank.
Now they're just going to fight 5v5.
Khan wants to come in from the side. FLICKR's looking to make some kind of a move here off the side. Xiaohu's in some trouble. Clid's going to blow him up. Effort now going to be run down here in the mid lane, but Khan's able to come in from the side. Uzi going on a rampage. FLICKR's going to be taken down now. Double kill over to Uzi, and SKT fall apart. Uzi's got exactly what they've been giving him. He's got the money, he's got the damage, he's got the triple kill.
And RNG once again find another successful fight, and we're seeing how much harder it is for SKT to force the 5v5. They need to find these picks. They thought they found it onto Xiaohu, but Uzi was still alive. The Baron is now in their eyes.
Teddy's trying to delay this to the best of his ability. Looks like he might just back away, but the death timer on FLICKR is 20 seconds with TP. Let's see if Teddy decides to do anything. Probably just going to send the ult. So something I want to talk about here is that RNG is just out executing SKT in fights that SKT is choosing to take. It's not RNG that's finding any of these team fights. It's SKT trying to brute force these team fights on top of RNG, which isn't very typical of them, but we have to shout out RNG for this execution. So Xiaohu without cleanse, SKT burn everything on him, but then watch Uzi in the rest of this fight. completely prepared to just wreck FLICKR as his synergy with Karsa is so strong. FLICKR can do nothing post-Zhonya's. Then once they've taken out FLICKR and Clid, they can just run down the rest of the fight.
I mean, we talked about it earlier in the day, Jack, before we even jumped onto CAS, which is that SKT as a team is often one that I feel over-relies on these team fights. And you're right, often a lot of the team fights that they force have great setup, but it feels like that they're just trying to force it down mid. That setup was not optimal, and RNG immediately find a great punish.
I often look at RNG and think of the president with his Secret Service detail. Well, Mr. Uzi's looking awful presidential right now, full build, pushing down the mid lane.
But SKT is 1-3-1ing, whereas RNG can be 5 strong in the mid lane. If that hook landed, the game might have been over, and I wonder if RNG's going to try and keep pushing through.
RNG pulling back for now. They do have Langx back in the base trying to deal with FLICKR's split push. It is mid inhibitor down on the side of SKT. They weren't able to get anything in retaliation. Inhibitor turret top side in RNG's base, still standing.
Yeah, FLICKR ulted to get out. Still anyone's game. What a way to open the day. SKT and RNG. Game still 400 gold off.
Force again?
While the Baron buff is up, one more lost fight for SKT and the game is over. Yet, with the way they prepped the top and the bot waves, if SKT has a favorable fight, they too would be able to win.
It's definitely close. We haven't actually mentioned it yet this game, but FLICKR is, of course, running the AP Twisted Fate, and he takes those towers incredibly quickly. You know, you proc one of the cards, you have the Lich Bane as well, and you will just melt through those towers. SKT likely going to be securing this second Mountain Drake, which will only help with their ability to siege, but it also opens it up to the Elder Dragon.
So, at this point, I don't think SKT wants to 5v5 again.
Yeah,
we'll see, because they keep trying to do it.
Yeah.
But they absolutely have the tools to win a 1-3-1.
Yeah.
They have amazing disengage with Gragas, Ezreal, Thresh. That's what the team composition is really set up to do. It is puzzling that they have forced so many 5v5s, especially now with Double Mountain.
The 3 teleports as well.
Yeah, it is a super huge challenge to 1-3-1 RNG to victory, because RNG so often, if we think about how they really rose to prominence, was able to just actually get the team fights with Uzi and carry through, and it's all about RNG neutralizing the 1-3-1. But that's what SKT, I think, is set up to do right here. They're not looking to find team fights unless they can get an amazing pick right off the start.
SKT is trying to deal with this RNG 4-man push here in the top side. They have everybody back in the base now. They might look to make some sort of a move here. Langx has the teleport, but he's not here just yet.
I don't think they saw Clid.
Look to make some sort of a play from the side. He's on the flank. That ward does not see him. It's disabled by the control ward. He's still hiding around the corner here. RNG gonna back themselves away now. They don't want to push up into the tier 3 turret just yet. Ming over the wall. Could go for some kind of a hook, but he didn't know anybody was there. Nothing to really fire at blind.
Oh, they can just... set on Langx.
They can kill him. Langx.
Yeah, he's gonna die.
Khan and FLICKR together. They got him last time. Can they do it here again? Langx buying himself some time, taking Khan into the death realm, but he is shut down. The rest of RNG now recognizing 2 members of SKT are on that other end of the map. They try to push top back up, but they just don't have the manpower to shove up.
Now, the bright side for RNG is that there are no major objectives alive right now, and because RNG had both top and bot pushed, SKT can't threaten a tower. So what this has achieved for SKT is a delay. They've slowed the game down. They've relieved the pressure that RNG was applying as a 4-man unit in the top side, but that was a big mistake from Langx, and he can't afford to be that far pushed out against the likes of a Twisted Fate this late into the game.
This game is still just on a knife's edge. Whoever makes the next mistake, it feels like your Nexus is going to blow up. And that's exactly what I want to see at Worlds. I don't want to see teams come in and say, oh yeah, this team's going to win, don't worry about it. This FLICKR and Uzi and RNG and SKT, this is what you want out of these organizations that there's so much history behind. The Baron will be spawning here in just over another minute. We'll see who can secure it this time.
I mean, it was called the Group of Death for a reason, Captain Flowers, and in this game alone, there has been a lot of death. And RNG and SKT are delivering, and we get to see them again in the second half of the groups as well.
And I also love how the longer this game has gone, the more the pace is picked up. Day 1 of the group stage had only 0.65 combined kills per minute, which was down from play-in and much lower than expected. This one up at 1 kill per minute. So we have picked up the pace to very fast, actually, in terms of how much they are killing each other, and figuring out what RNG is going to do here. So much of it, I think, will be about how RNG can manage that mid lane wave, because they still have that inhibitor down. If they get mid lane priority, it makes their side to side so much easier. And for SKT, it's about preventing RNG from feeling comfortable with the Baron Force without losing a large portion of their base.
So I think SKT is actually in a much more favorable position with a split push this late into the game, just because whenever RNG want to set up for an objective, Gragas and Ezreal...
They're going for Mordekaiser.
Oh, they're going.
Oh, can they get him?
No, they're going for the tower.
Push down that tier 3 inhibitor instantly. They just exploded. FLICKR's damage on the AP Twisted Fate just kills it in 3 hits.
But you can see what happens if RNG try to go for something like a Baron. The Ezreal and the Gragas will just stall, while the Twisted Fate will just backdoor. So for RNG, you're being forced into a very difficult situation where you either try and deal with the side lanes, or you lose a Baron.
So now they flipped it, actually. RNG sends everyone into teleports.
Exactly. This is it.
Khan's keeping himself alive very well in this 1v1 right now, looking to turn things back around onto Xiaohu. Nearly grabbing the kill, will be kept alive.
Can Karsa steal?
Angel, while SKT is able to find themselves into the pit. RNG, they get the kill on the top laner, but Baron goes to SKT.
But that's a 55-second death timer with the 30-second spawn of the Elder for double Infernal of RNG. So every action has a reaction in this one.
But then again, you've got to remember, Twisted Fate on it. It's going to be back up. The moment they start that Elder, he's going to teleport to the bottom Rift Herald. And this is why in the late game, split pushing comps can be very difficult to deal with if you have good communication and coordination. All Teddy and Clid need to do is stall, buy time, because FLICKR and Khan can be the ones to threaten on a side lane. Khan has his teleport up. He'll be alive in 25 seconds. And FLICKR has a ward that they can use to backdoor.
Except Thaddeus, look at the position of that bottom wave and the fact that RNG has 5 people. If they find a fight here, they can win the game.
Uzi's off to the side.
SKT's not splitting.
Starting up the Elder Drake.
He's going for the steal. He's going for the steal.
He can just get ulted by Langx in 2 seconds. Oh, he's going to try to steal.
It's so low, it's going to be secured by Karsa, but into the pit go 2 members of SKT. Clid's in stasis, Ming nearly burned down. It's a 1-for-1, and Khan's back alive on the table.
And now it's another 5v4. Potentially for RNG, and SKT's just trying to keep the minion wave as far from his base as possible, because for the next 2 minutes, RNG's going to try and push mid to win.
Oh man, it's a game of chicken. Both teams just constantly threatening and forcing each other into awkward situations.
RNG's going for
RNG, they're committing to the 5-man. TP being invested, look at the positioning of FLICKR. Will he go for a backdoor, or will he group with this team?
SKT can concede the inhib, they just need to make sure to wave clear.
It is a 4v4. Remember, Ming died in the Elder Drake fight. SKT are not completely outmatched here, but they do not want to run in directly to this Elder buff team. Mid lane inhibitor down again, but RNG will not force further.
Looks like we're going to have 2 SKT Baron power plays that both end in the negative. Who would have thought that would happen in this one, or the fact that it would go over 40 minutes with the gold being identical this late? And watching this one more time, what a risk by SKT to try and steal that Elder Drake. And however, if they did it, they would actually have a 4 Drake as well as this. And we're watching this Teddy live replay.
What was important though is you noticed it just before the play, Jack, which was that the wave wasn't set up for SKT to set up a proper backdoor onto that bot lane inhibitor. And if FLICKR commits his ultimate, then he's likely going to die. And if he's dead and RNG still get the Elder, then well, that's GG probably. So they don't take the gamble. Instead, they gamble on trying to 50-50 smite the Elder. And at the end of the day, SKT only lost their mid inhib, so they're still in the game.
And Baron and Elder are going to end up timing out at nearly the same time. So we're going to get to re-rack this split push composition for SKT and let them have another go at it. We know what happened last time when the Baron spawned. SKT was able to push and pull RNG all the way until RNG had to all-in Khan, which gives the Baron over to SKT. Now, I think that's still favorable for SKT, and the next time, since the second spawn of Elder Drake is going to be more desynced, RNG won't be able to take Elder during that timing. So that was a lot to say. The simple factor is I think SKT has an edge, because they have an inhibitor down with a split push composition, and they can use that to their advantage to get another Baron.
Look at FLICKR. Look at him right now. He's in the top side of the map. They have a wave pushing as well. He's just going to threaten that. His teleport is not ult, but his ulti is. And RNG committing to this, they have no other teleports available on their side. They will not just win a base race because there are still 4 members of SKT here to hold the line.
They might just go for it, though.
This
If
could be how it
Karsa
ends.
gets the kick, he's got flash kick and wards.
Look at the wave play coming out from Teddy. Yeah, they have to disengage. This is
Can't do
likely
it.
going to be the tower for SKT.
RNG knows this is just not hard forceable.
And they have no teleports, Flowers. So Faker can just do this for free.
Yeah.
The recalls take so long. He even gets to see the recalls. SKT, if they had more pokes, they'd actually be able to stop Mord from going back. That's the inhib, and he's out of there.
Another
Wait, no,
TP is
they're going for
in.
more.
Oh, they're all going! It's a triple teleport up into the top side
Oh,
for SKT.
they wanna win!
Uzi's going legendary. He's able to find the kill onto the Gragas. SKT are now on the Nexus turret.
Will they get
And
close?
SKT,
Blitz!
they play the map right, and they find the Nexus.
The split push ended up paying off for SKT. They found the back door. We talked so much about how difficult it will be for RNG to play this late game, and it didn't come down to the Baron or the Elder. It just came down to a single decision, and SKT found the win.
Before those minions spawn, I said, look at these teleports. This could be a big difference maker. And the 3 teleports at the end of the game wins it for SKT.
Absolutely, Captain Flowers. And if at first you don't succeed, try different stuff, is actually what we learned from SKT this game, because they at first tried to team fight. That didn't work. And they were good enough to recognize what their composition was really built for, and they split pushed RNG to death.
But the reality is RNG were tested and pushed. And even though they came back into the game, the moment they got to a point where they knew they would win every 5v5, they were never given a 5v5 anymore. And this is when SKT started playing the map very well. So while I think we can appreciate there were a couple of misplays from the side of SKT, they were the ones that put themselves in the position in the first place to be able to win with this split push style.
And you know what Koma said before the game? Practice doesn't really matter that much. The only
All who
thing
win.
that matters is victories. So mistakes with team fighting,
I mean,
Nexus fell.
yesterday it was Khan who said, I believe in an interview, that everybody's talking about the group of death, but the group of death only matters if you can't keep up. We're here to win. We don't care who we're against.
Yeah, and listen, Flowers, I said this before the World Championship. The best team in the world doesn't complain about hard groups because they're what makes the group hard.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude that SKT has coming into this World Championship, as they take down both Fnatic and RNG on back-to-back days to start off Worlds.
That's the attitude of a 2-0 team here. And for more on that game, let's go ahead and check in with State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you so much, Captain Flowers. What a game that was to watch. If you have no allegiance, even worse if you have allegiance on either side. And I know the LPL representative and the ex-LPL representative, who, spoiler alert, was cheering quite hard when RNG was winning team fights. Wow, insane game.
Like, really playing at my heartstrings, the fact that it was going back and forth. And then for, like, SKT, at times not even playing to their comp, I was just going back and forth on Twitter. It's like, it's over. Like, SKT has an basically has a 6-item Twisted Fate. They should always be playing. Wait a minute. Why are they contesting for Elder Dragon? What's the purpose?
So the first thing
no
I want to
idea.
do is take a look at that back door again, because it just happened.
Yes.
And it was quite, it's not unexpected because you have TPs and you have a Twisted Fate. But why did RNG make the decisions they did?
Because they needed to deal with the Twisted Fate. It's like the worst mosquito in the room because it's a killer. Like, you need to be able to deal with it. And I didn't even expect the teleports to be doubling down on it.
But it was just so classic to see an LPL team undone this way by globals. The LPL likes to emphasize combat summoners or defensive summoners, not teleports in their lanes. It's the ignites, it's the heals. In this case, it was the cleanse when they go into lane, not the TP, which is why countless times globally you will see teams run Shen into them, run Twisted Fate into them, play the side lane and not the team fight. So it was like the quintessential way for RNG to be undone is a backdoor by a Twisted Fate.
And the frustration behind it all is a major factor, because throughout the later portions of the game, they tried endlessly to deal with not even just the Twisted Fate, it was the Twisted Fate and the Renekton that we were on side lane consistently that got SKT the Baron. And so they realized for a good majority of the game, they need to make a decision to deal with it, unfortunately, SKT had the last laugh.
And I think we're going to take a look at the picks and bans and then at a couple of team fights. But what was really so prevalent in this game was that from both teams, these are two teams that you know can turn 0% situations back in their favor if given the chance. And we saw that multiple times from the side of SKT and from RNG. But Frost, you were saying, well, when you look at these pick and bans, there's a clear way in which both teams want to approach the game.
Yeah, there's obviously, anytime you have a Twisted Fate, there's always going to be the threat of the side lane. And then when you have a fantastic duelist like Renekton, as soon as he has Spear of Shojin unlocked, like that was always going to be the game plan of which SKT were going to try to leverage their victory. And it's so impossible to try to then hard engage on a Thresh, Ezreal, Gragas. The disengage from that is impossible. But even in the 5v5s, when RNG did manage to get a hold of these kind of key pieces, there was still so many amazing outplays. Clid on this Gragas, so many crucial barrels that really stalled this game out when SKT did get kind of funneled into a side lane win condition.
There's a couple of things that I want to hone in on in the draft as well. We saw the TF. We're used to seeing it AD from Nemesis back in EU. It barely gets played in the LCK, but when it did, it was AP. And this time also FLICKR goes for the AP TF. What did we make of that? As well as Xiaohu's Zoe in the mid lane.
I like it in terms of itemizing because if you were to take an AD approach, then Gragas would really be only one be providing AP in this one, and on top of that, he has a decent laning phase here against the Zoe. So you're not really concerned about getting isolated, having a hardship, being behind like 10 or 20 CS on that one. So I think it was a positive going into the AP round.
I think there's positives for both AP and AD. AD, it feels like you kind of get more power spikes, if you will, basically on every single completed item. But what was really cool about the interaction with the AP Twisted Fate was the line damage with this composition. The fact that when you have an Ezreal ultimate that goes through, when you have the cards that go through, and then you throw a Gragas barrel on top, we saw Xiaohu just get instantly blown up from a backline with so much range. And I think it was that interaction in the team fights that was super cool to watch.
Well, let's take a look at one of the team fights where that materialized. It was in the mid lane, rather, where SKT has a beautiful engage under the mid tower.
Yeah, I think what's amazing about that team fight, as you already mentioned, just the composition coming through, the great Gragas toss. He was on the sideline too, or at least like the side of mid lane looking for a flank. So I love the fact that they were ready for that fight.
Yeah, and to be frank, Clid and Karsa were smurfing this game.
Yeah.
Both of them got their highlight reels. Any which way you wanted to slice this and look at it, there were massive outplays. But that one was so pivotal because RNG were finally grouped as 5. We talked about how SKT had been trying to leverage those side lanes. And so to hit a cask at that crucial moment meant that the fight could turn for SKT, which should have been an RNG victory at that point in terms of itemization, comp, and map state.
The reason why this game was actually just so hectic, and I know like going back to the pick and ban once again, is that SKT gave themselves, basically each individual in this fight had a way to create an action point, like the Thresh hook, the Twisted Fate W, the Gragas cast as we already saw, and so picks were always available. Even if I looked at RNG's composition and said in a team fight setting, the Xayah is going to be a beast, at the end of the day, yeah, you could use QSS on one of those abilities, specifically the Thresh Q, but then you always have to deal with the next member that's going to be trying to gun for you. So there was always a playmaking material coming in from SKT.
Yeah, and SKT was very good at shutting those moments down. I do want to take a look at just one final replay, which made us think that RNG was surely going to win this game because Uzi was absolutely in his element.
And remember that line damage that we were talking about, the fact that Xiaohu just got sniped before the fight even began. He's immediately killed. Now Uzi does clean this up because FLICKR flashes aggressively to make it worthwhile, which means that he's stuck in that pit as soon as he's in it. So they line up in front of Uzi. As Captain Flower said, they escort the president through and pick up a team fight. And it was so back and forth. You could see it in the gold lead. I was losing my mind. The audience couldn't decide if they were SKT fans or RNG fans, but just League of Legends fans, because this was the best game that we've seen at Worlds thus far.
That was what I was going to ask you, because often in these games that are incredibly back and forth, you have a hard time determining if someone was not playing as well. But in this one, it seems like all of these players were playing very well, minus a couple in these very intense team fights.
Yeah, and I think that's the most beautiful thing about the game, is that while I looked at this game and said decision-making was not proper, it was because there was so much focus and faith in individual play that like Teddy would be able to make the right call, or I would say even like there were moments in which FLICKR had that insane outplay at the very end of it that made them have that shot of being able to defend certain turrets.
Yeah, if you want to get into like the analytical nitty-gritty of it, RNG did make the wrong call. Anytime you get backdoored, obviously there was a poor decision that was made, and they needed to take care of the side lane before they grouped up and tried to contest in that 5v5 because they didn't have the necessary hard engage that they needed. They had a Blitzcrank hook and a Lee Sin. It was really hard to force fights like that, and their Mordekaiser was getting smashed. So yeah, you can say that this wasn't the cleanest play, that there were errors, but it was a very action-packed game.
Well, this is a discussion we should get into at another time. I always find it very interesting for both the team that gets backdoored against as the team that backdoors, because ideally as SKT, even though you have that 1-3-1 composition, you don't want to be in a situation where you have to make something that is not 100% play, which a backdoor never is, right? But I don't think we have the time right now, but as SKT, you probably don't want to find yourself in that position either.
Yeah, I think especially, we already talked about the mentality, you just won that second game. Like now you're incredibly confident about your placement in this group, unless if you go into the second round robin. But I think that SKT are super confident about like their take on the game. Their early games so far in the tournament have just been incredibly strong. And so I think they had the right take on the meta probably the first time in memory.
And there we go. SKT is now 2-0 in this group, so they are taking the lead. And for more on SKT's win, let's hear from their bot laner.
Thank you very much, guys. Laure here, and joining me right now is Teddy from SK Telecom T1. Congratulations on the win, and thank you for joining me. Facing RNG today, you knew they were going to play for bot lane. You had a good matchup top lane, and we know that usually Ezreal is the safe bet for bot lane. So explain to me, why did you decide to pressure bot regardless?
오늘 RNG와 경기를 치르셨는데 RNG는 항상 봇 위주로 게임을 하잖아요. 그래서 SKT가 약간 탑이 이기는 상성을 가져간 것 같아요. 그럼에도 불구하고 이번 게임은 약간 봇 위주로 많이 게임을 했었는데 이유 설명 부탁드립니다.
일단은 탑에서 이득을 보는 것보다 바텀에서 손해를 보는 게 좀 더 많다고 생각해서 저희가 바텀 위주로 게임했던 것 같아요.
So we played around bot side because we thought that we had more to win by doing this than playing top side.
Okay, and do you think it was the good decision to make in the later stages of the game? Because I saw that you struggled in mid-game, especially during team fights. Could you explain why, maybe?
근데도 약간 미드 게임에서 약간 힘들었던 것 같아요. 이즈리얼로 어땠나요, 게임을 하면서?
확실히 일단은 자야가 푸시가 좋아서 이즈 상대로 되게 잘 버틴 것도 있고 원래 그 자야를 좀 포킹을 해서 피를 까누면서 좀 돌아다녀야 되는데 계속 블랭한테 좀 잘리면서 좀 그런 플레이가 좀 잘 안 됐던 것 같아요.
I think it went hard because, you know, Xayah has a really good push. So as an Ezreal, I'm supposed to poke her and then roam. But I was not able to do that because I got caught up by Blitzcrank many times. And so that made the mid-game a little bit hard.
Yeah, Blitzcrank can be an annoying champion sometimes. Now, you're making your Worlds debut here. Congratulations on that. So tell me, how was it for you to play against the legendary Uzi?
이번이 첫 롤드컵 진출전에 우선 너무 축하드리고요. 이제 우지 선수와 정말 유명한 선수와 이렇게 경기를 하게 됐는데 소감 한마디 부탁드립니다.
확실히 우지 선수와 되게 롤드컵에서 처음 경기를 해봤는데 한 거와 같이 보시다시피 그냥 엄청 잘하는 것 같고요. 그래서 좀 더 다음 상대할 때는 덜 긴장을 더 잘해야 될 것 같습니다.
Yeah, so this is my first Worlds. I was playing against Uzi on stage, and obviously you saw he's a really good player. So I'll have to try better and try my best for the next games.
Well, you came out on top in the end, so congratulations on that. Thank you very much, Hajin, for the translation. 감사합니다, Teddy. And ahead of League's 10-year anniversary going live in 2 days, here's the newest piece from the League of Legends content team. And we're going back to Lucian's story.